Greetings to my 1115 subscribers, and of course you the future subscriber. Tonight back on the samples. Now 2 videos ago I was talking about the samples. I did a review on the Balvenie 17, absolutely fantastic, a little bit expensive. So sample box, pulling it out again. As you can imagine, becoming really expensive, so it's a good idea to have an online store that will sell you some samples. Try it before you buy it. Absolutely fantastic. Been reviewing more than 400 whiskies over the last 2 years. As you can imagine, if I had to buy a full bottle of each and every one of them, the budget is definitely not going to allow it. And of course, a lot of people have reached out to me and said they want to send me some samples. I really appreciate it. I think it's a fantastic gesture. Unfortunately, for the Belgium authorities or the customs here, is just absolutely ridiculous. The import duties that they are charging for samples is crazy. As an example, it was 120 milliliters of samples that was sent to me from the UK a couple of months ago. 120 mils. It was clearly stated as samples, not retail, and they still wanted almost 40 euros for import duties on that sample. So yes, very difficult living in Belgium. Ever since Brexit, getting whiskey for me from the UK is just absolutely ridiculous. Cannot do it anymore. I rely on my online store here, and I rely on a store in Holland, which is quite reasonable, and of course the delivery fees are also fantastic. So those people that would like to help out the channel, I have created a Patreon account, and please be aware, everything that are sent via the Patreon account will go towards children in South Africa, not for me to buy whiskey. That's a pledge that I've made 2 years ago. We are looking after 75 kids that really need our assistance just for the basic needs, food and clothing. So look at my Patreon. It's in the description if you are interested. $1, $2, whatever you can afford, knowing that money 100% will go towards them. And I checked under my analytics, and I see that a lot of people are watching the channel, but they forget to like and subscribe. And on average, between 7,000 to 9,000 people are watching this channel a month, and 80% of them are not subscribers. So I'm sure you're liking the content, you are keep on coming back, and so help out the channel as well. Click the like and subscribe, and of course that AdSense that are created on this account will definitely also go 100% towards the children in South Africa. So that is a long opening. I'm sorry about it, but sometimes you also have to think about the kids in South Africa. So tonight we are looking at a sample of the Craigellachie 17-year-old, and I must say I'm quite looking forward to giving this a nose and a taste. I did the review on the 13-year-old. Oh, it is fantastic. Real speyside type of nose, that light fruitiness, something like a Glencadam. I do love Glencadam. I was a big fan of Glencadam for the last 2 years. I keep on ranting and raving. The Glencadam 10, 15, up to 25 years old. Similar nose, just that light fruitiness. So the 13, I did a review, and I'll put it at the end card quite some time ago. So don't judge me on the bad video or the bad editing. It's not about my skills then. It's all about what I can do now. Well, trying to do. So the 17-year-old, I unfortunately do not know what is the batch code. When was this bottle? I do know that there is a difference between the different batches. Some of them I see is quite a little bit darker than the one that I have. So, but I presume it is quite a late bottling, because it's still available online as a full bottle. So normally that is one of the later bottles. Unfortunately, when they send me the details on what's in the bottle, they don't give me a batch code. Maybe that's something that what they should be looking at. So I'm just going to pour this one. I've got a nice nosing glass ready. Leave a little bit for later. And we talk about the Craigellachie, 17 years old. It is, of course, from the Speyside region in Scotland. It is bottled at 46% ABV, non-chill filtered. Nothing on the bottle about coloring, but with a little bit of dig, they do say that no color is added. It would have been nice if they put it on the bottle as well. So with a little bit of digging, I did find a little bit more of the information with regards to the maturation. I'm going to do a quick read for you. Initially matured in mixture of ex-bourbon and ex-sherry cask. 50% of the blend is then finished in first fill sherry cask, the rest in first fill bourbon cask. So a little bit more information. I do appreciate it that I can actually find this information. So it is 46%. Is it better than the 13-year-old? Well, on the nose, on this 17-year-old Craigellachie, cheers. It is so speyside. If you are used to a speyside whiskey, I don't even really have to tell you what I'm nosing. It is typical speyside, the lightness, the fruity flavors coming out. It's pleasant, it's sweet, it's apple, it's fruity, little tropical fruit. There's a little bit of a pineapple note coming out. That citrus note is definitely there. But light, fluffy, and sweet. It is 46% ABV, but even with a little bit of an agitation, I don't get a lot of that. That ethanol note, definitely not strong, quite balanced between the sweetness and the alcohol. And I think with the agitation, you actually get a little bit more of the flavors. Maybe also a good idea to add a little bit of water, a drop of 2, to see what the effect is going to be. Reminds me, I just did a video of the Speyside 10. A lot of similarities between this one and the Speyside. And of course, Glencadam 10, maybe also the 13 or the 15-year-old Glencadam. Something to compare. Yeah, definitely stablemates. Something that really reminds me of that Speyside sweetness. Also get a hint of a peach note. There's some vanilla, light honey note, and a little bit of a light cereal note coming out. Now, they do say there's ex-sherry cask. Not getting a lot of the sherry. Well, I'm getting a very little sherry. I would not have guessed sherry influence, especially in a blind tasting. A hint of a sherry, so I'm not sure how long it is matured in sherry cask. First fill, they say. I'm not so sure. I don't get that. Maybe it's just me. Definitely, as another, I would say, a classic Speyside whiskey. Definitely not, for me on the nose, it's not a remarkable one, but it keeps on changing. Every time that I go back on the nose, there's a little bit of a difference, a little bit of sweeter, a little bit of more vanilla, a little bit more toffee, a little bit more deeper apple note. There's also a little bit of a Not every time. Every now and again I get a little bit of a freshly cut grass. That green note, that little hint of that grass that was cut. Quite pleasant actually. But of course we need to taste it as well. So on the taste, cheers. Very different. The nose was quite light, fruity, appley. On the taste it was like, no, I'm not that fuzzy little animal. There's definitely a little kick of the alcohol. There's a spiciness. There's a little bit of a oakiness coming in. There's a little bit of a hotness in. And then in the end, a little bit of that bitter note, a little bit of a tannins coming through. Let me just try again. And a lovely sweetness. So it's that initial shock, and you're left with a nice toffee, caramel, apple toffee type of sweetness in the end. Quite pleasant actually. I'm a little bit surprised. It's like a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde, the sweetness in the nose, and then that little bit of a oomph in the taste. I also pick up a little bit of a sour note, almost like an artificial hard candy with a little bit of a sour note in the end. Just a hint of that, a little bit of a sherbet sour note that I pick up. And also, with the second sip, I do detect a little bit more of that oaky tannins. Let me just want to make sure. Yes, there is a little bit of oak build up. I think it is just perfect just to balance the sweetness. It feels that every time I get a little bit more oak, a little bit more sweetness, and it just keeps on balancing the scale. And it feels like it belongs. It feels like it is the perfect combination between the bitter and the sweet. 17 years old with a little bit of an ex-sherry cask, always for me tends to have that a little bit of a bitter note. I get a little bit of a caramel note, a little bit of a toffee note, a little bit of an apple note on the taste. I also get, well, if I have to explain the bitter notes, I think it's a little bit towards the dark chocolate note, but not really a chocolatey taste, but just the bitterness that comes with the dark chocolate. And in the end, I get a hint of a dried apricot or dried peach note, or fresh peach note. But the nose, oh my word, the nose is just nice. I really like a nice speyside nose, and this is definitely ticking the boxes for me. Well done to the distillery. I do like this one. So for me, when I think about as a final thought, do I like the whiskey? Absolutely. When I think about the finish of the whiskey, I get that sweet, I get that hot, I get that spicy, I get the oaky, I get the fruity, and I get sweet again. It's quite medium, and you're just left with a nice sweet aftertaste. Really, really impressed with this one. So much happening from the initial pour up until you've finished it. Every time that you go back, you're going to find a little bit something new, maybe something that's elevated. For me now, definitely the biggest elevation is that vanilla, loads and loads of vanilla coming out. So 13 or the 17, I'm not sure if it's a good idea to compare it, but I can tell you I do like it. And I think I will have to create two categories, because the 13 is also perfect, but for me the 17 here is also a really nice dram. The only thing that will stop me from buying it, of course, is the price. And 140, 150 euros. This one at my shop, they are advertising it for 157 euros for the bottle. A lot of money for a 17-year-old. But of course, if you have the money, definitely give it a try. So, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. And share my content. Let's help the kids in South Africa. Cheers.